Technique Tuesday, can you feel the buzz? Lights are on, we're almost ready, here it comes. Live from Hunkydory Towers, right on cue. Amy and Craig are here with something new. First Tuesday of the month, mark the day. Grab your tools, let creativity play. A full hour, live with tips and flair. Inspiration waiting everywhere. So get comfy, settle in time. We're counting you down, it's nearly time. Ideas flowing, crafty delight. Technique Tuesday starts tonight. Technique Tuesday, here we go. Learning tricks and watching ideas grow. Live from Hunkydory Towers, fun for all. Amy and Craig will guide us all. For a full hour, side by side. Let your creativity be your guide. Technique Tuesday, let's begin. Grab your kit, let the fun roll in.
Yes, good afternoon, one. Good afternoon, all. Thank you, boys in the band. You are now free to get the number 2 bus all the way home. It's entirely up to you. Send your own voice, I'll send you the fare. It is Technique Tuesday. It's the first Tuesday of the month. How quick has this come round? Yes, indeed. Today, we'll wait for you all to come in, but we're going to talk all things glue. Everything, glue, red line tape. I can tell you what we're going to be talking about in the next hour. We are going to be talking about tape runners, dotted tape runners, double-sided tape, white tacky glue, construction glue, gilding glue, envelope glue, glue sticks, hot glue, glue dots, red liner tape, 3D foam pads, glue gel and silicone gel. Jill? Who's Jill? Silicone glue, 2-in-1 glue pens, sticky mitts A4, unsure, but we'll cover it. Double-sided adhesive erasers, glue stands, glitters, gilding flakes. Anything that is glue-related is going into this hour. Okay, that's what we're going to do this hour. As you know, it is Technique Tuesday. New jingle, everything. Loved it. Let's welcome the man himself, the man, the myth, the legend that is. If he don't know about glue, there's not worth knowing. It is live from Hunkydory Towers. Craig's here.
Good
Hey,
afternoon.
Birds.
You all right?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am very well, thank you very much. And I am beyond excited. Who could say that they get excited about glue and adhesives, Adam? I can. I absolutely love glues and adhesives, always have done. I'm an adhesive geek, and there really is a glue and adhesive for different projects or different mediums. And I think it's always nice to know, and also always nice to either learn from scratch or have a recap when it comes to glues and adhesives. And it's something always get asked about over the years. So it's a nice way to actually, talk your way through them.
Something else I also know you like. I saw you having a little doo-wop to the jingle. I saw you having a little doo-wop back there.
Are the cameras still live to you? Are they?
Yes, they are.
Did not know that. Jess, did you know that? Yes, Jess did know that. Thank you very much, Jess.
Yeah. Craig was there having a little fingered twist like the 1960s. I loved it. So let's get serious for a minute, all about glue. Now, if you've got any glue-related questions, throw them into the chat now. We'll either do them as we go or I'll collaborate them for the end and we'll have one big Q&A all about glues. Now, not just glue, everyone, as well. I want to talk tape, red liners, double-sided adhesives. Anything that's sticky, we are going to cover this hour. So get all your questions in now as well. I think we're across all platforms. We're live across everywhere. Hunkydory Facebook, Hunkydory YouTube, my YouTube, Hobbymaker YouTube. So there's loads of platforms to watch this out on as well. The last final bit as well, if you can't watch us live, all the replay, my little replay crew. Later on tonight, I will stream this and I will cut it into little sections. So if you watch on YouTube, you can bookmark and jump to the bit that you need adhesive-wise. So let's get straight in. Yep. Let's start with the glue that we all know, that we all sort of grew up with, is the stick glue.
It is, absolutely. Over this 45 minutes, an hour, there's some of them we'll be having a play with, Adam. There'll be some of them that'll just talk you around, of course. But yeah, this is something, you know, maybe you're familiar with in a different, of course, different look, different style, different concept. But with this is our purple glue stick. Now, where in the past with other ones, you may be familiar with the color of it being white. With this, and when it comes to anything at Hunkydory, we always put our own stamp on it. It doesn't matter whether it is a glue, a dye, whatever it is, we always put our own stamp on our, for instance, an adhesive, as I'm doing right now. And this goes to show it is purple. Now, it will dry clear. So because you've got that flat surface, if you want to do something like your matte and layer, you can absolutely do that. Maybe you don't, maybe you're not a big fan of your dry adhesives. Maybe you're not a big fan of the wet adhesive, but you want that in between here. The great thing with ours is, as you can see, it's purple, but can you already start to see it starting to fade?
Yeah.
Starting to fade. Now, that will fade, that will go clear, but that is what's going to be incredibly strong to adhere your card or your project together if you want. There's still an element of water content in there. So if you do want to use it for construction, like the side of your boxes, I prefer a wet glue or red liner tape that we'll talk you through just shortly. But if you have got any of these, you can absolutely use these for things such as your construction. You can just go around the edges if you want and put your gilding flakes or your glitter. You're not always going to get a nice smooth surface because of that texture, but it is purple, dries clear. So it does mean if you need to see a specific area that you're going in, this is a really, really good one because you can see exactly where you're going. And I see Colleen's asking there about how long does it take to dry? For something like this, if you're actually using it to construct or your mats and layers, about 15 minutes or so. Anything like that, you're going to be absolutely good. There's going to be no prizing apart. If you're putting, like I'm showing you this for an example here, Adam, this will dry unlike our gilding glue or 2-in-1 tape pen that I'll show you shortly. So once this is dry, that'll be it completely dry. But honestly, and I'm saying 15 minutes, could even be as little as 10 minutes.
And is it a permanent glue? When I say a permanent glue, once you stick two pieces together, are they going to come apart once that glue dry, or is it a firm tack that we're going to get?
It's a firm one. It is a firm one. It is a permanent one. It is one that, because you've got that water base within it as well. If you got it in on your clothes or that, it's great for the kiddies. Just washes off, no problem at all. And even the colour as well. Don't worry about that dye in any of your clothes or that. But when it comes to this, because it is got that water content to a point, that is going to dry completely well, solid in a way, and this is why it's also a good one for construction.
And we can also see on that A4 paper that you've got on your mats as well. Now that has completely dried. The purple is now gone that you've got in there. I'm guessing it's still tacky to the touch, but so it is still tacky, but you've still got that purple residue has now gone. That is your glue stick. Now, there will be a QR code towards the end of the hour as well. All these glues are available over on the Hobby Maker website. I will put that up towards the end of the show. Let's cover them all. Then you might want to fill your baskets for the rest of the day. And what we don't have, they'll also have over on the Hunkydory website as well. So go and check them out on there. So from a glue stick...
Yes.
What would be the next stage? Where would we go from here?
So I would say that you're either wanting to go for your dry adhesive or your wet adhesive. So I think probably be best, a lot of people will maybe start with a dry adhesive because that then covers your tissue tape, or more importantly, what a lot of people love for confidence as well is your tape runners that we do. So probably the dry ones would be the best ones to go with, Adam.
Okay. So where are we using the, now obviously the whole point of these people are going, why are they really going back to basics? That's the whole point of Technique Tuesday for people that don't know. about what's going on. So a tape runner, why a tape runner over glue, maybe?
So with a tape runner, where it is instant, as in your glues that we'll show you just shortly, it's a wet, you need to let these dry. Now, as we talked about with the glue sticks, they don't take overly long to dry, but you still have that element of having to wait on them drying. Whereas when it comes to a dry adhesive, but that dry just means obviously exactly that is dry. So tape runner, it could be, of course, your tissue tape, tearable tape, also covers things such as your red liner tape that we'll talk about just shortly. But in essence, what that just means is it's not wet like your other glues. So you've got that instant bond, you've got that instant stick. What you've got within ours at Hunkydory is they are refillable as well. You've got 22 meters in length on these. So you will find some other brands out there around about 10 to 12 meters, whereas ours are 22 meters. What I love as well with ours, it's not just one half that is then replaceable. What you're just doing, that's the only bit that you're going to be discarding. You're keeping that whole lot. But the purple one gives us that straight edge tape. So you can see on here, it's got that picture of a straight edge. This one, we'll show you just shortly, has got these tiny, tiny little dots. There's thousands and thousands, if not millions, of tiny little dots that we'll talk you through. But with these ones, perfect for exactly that, your mats and layers. So really, really good one. I mean, if we were to come in here, so I've just got a couple of bits of cardstock. A lot of these that we're going to have a play with, Adam, it's only going to take minutes or so.
No, that's fine.
What you will find is black and white always shows it off best. So that's why you'll tend to see I'm doing kind of my techniques within that black and the white. So I'm just trimming that one that little bit smaller. Can't remember what size I've done that to. There we go. So for this, and when it comes to the dots, I've already got something die cut that we can show you. But for this, it is edge to edge. So you've got a plastic carrier that goes from side to side. So things like that, I'm a fan of because we can get right to that edge. Now, you can, if you want, with our tape runners, they are a strong adhesive. So you can use these as a way to construct your boxes. What I would recommend, if you're going to do that, because I understand to start with lots of adhesives, there's a lot that we're going to go over. And as you said, it's nice to do that recap, even though it's really, really basic, because some people forget. Sometimes you need that little bit of that helping hand. But by popping that on, and then what you can do is give that a really good press. So if you're going to be using these for construction, highly recommend that you give that a press. You can be using your bone folder from your scoring tool or even your little spatula, and then you can really press down. That's then going to give you a solid adhesion as well. Therefore, it gives you that perfect mat and layer. What I wouldn't, this is entirely up to you. I wouldn't use my dots, Adam, for mats and layers, because that's wasting it.
Okay.
If you run out, by all means, yes, you can do it. It's the same adhesive, it's just in tiny, tiny little dots. But whereas I say you don't want to waste it, because what about one of our intricate dies? So this is where your dots come in really handy. There's going to be an element of not jumping about, but referring to other things, because you talked about as well your sticky mitts.
Yes.
So this is A4 double-sided adhesive sheet. So in essence, what that is, it's just a big sticker, really. So what you could do is peel the backing off here, stick your cardstock on there, then die cut it, peel the backing off, and that creates a whole sticker for the back of your intricate die cut. So that's a nice, clean way of doing it. Another way that you can do is with our white glue, and you could sketch over the back, or on your craft mat, you can do a little bit of a puddle, spread it out, tap it in. But all of these have got an element of mess to it. That one, because you've got an adhesive layer, that can stick into your die. And I don't mean stick and not come out. It just catches because it's sticking to the roundness of the die. This is why a lot of people will go for the dots, because all that you then need to do is turn it on its back. Take a bit of scrap card. It's the exact same idea and concept as the straight, but it's a different color that lets you see as well. And all that you need to do is just work your way from one end to the other. And what's happening is those thousands and thousands and thousands of dots, they are only sticking to that intricate die cut. So
they're not sticking to the paper at all.
So where you've got those aperture parts, it will stick to that. But what it's doing is you've got no gunkiness, you've not got any overflow of glue, you're not having to pop any little bits out over time. And don't get me wrong, these are great and I do use them, but it is one that you need to just make sure you've got an extra 5-10 minutes to pop them out. Whereas when it comes to the dots, it's just that instant accurate dot over any little intricate, great for little sentiments, anything like that. But for me, as I said, I tend to use them as they are intended. My straight for my mats and layers, as well as my dots just for the intricate die cut. And you can, if you want, you can stick glitters and gilding flakes and that on them as well.
So the tape runners have got a purpose as well. So we've gone through your tape runners. So don't think, oh, I don't use tape runners because they're hard or anything like that. Tape runners for me, that's how they got me started on this whole journey, because they are quick, they are easy, and sometimes you don't want to be waiting for the glue to dry because you just want to make a project there and then.
That's it, exactly.
But they're also super tacky. So once you've stuck that mat and lay down, that's genuinely going nowhere, is it?
It's not, no. I mean, if I bring that bit in, and so even these parts here that are kind of the waist, it's got that suction on my glass mat. So you can see that's stuck. But this one here, because that's full edge to edge, Adam, that ain't going anywhere. And once you secure that onto your car, now don't put your hand on the back before you put it onto the card, because any oils or that can affect, of course, the way that it adheres. But I was just doing that to serve a purpose and to show you. You just give that a nice burnish. Don't worry if you don't have them. Your bone folder off your adorable scoreboard will work, but that ain't going anywhere now. And you've not got any residue of glue seeping out, coming out, anything like that. You've then just got your tiny little fine little adhesive dots on the back.
So they're your tape runners that we've been through. So we've covered quite a bit already. So let's recap what we've done. So we've talked about your glue sticks,
yes,
how amazing they are. We've also we went on to the tape runner, the straight and the dotty tape runner. We talked about the sticky mitt mats as well in A4. We briefly touched on the white tacky glue, and I think this is where we get into a world of, oh, here we go. Right, what is what? Because everyone thinks, and I did for years as well, and I stand behind that counter when I'm presenting going, surely glue is glue. Yeah. Surely glue, but it's genuinely not. And many people think it's just a selling tool and things like that. So let's talk about that white tacky glue that you've got in front of you there, because some people do like that little bit of wiggle room. We talk about wiggle room a lot on the channels. So why do we need, why white tacky glue? Why this glue? That's almost my question.
So if you're like me and you've been crafting for many years, really when it comes to the form of adhesion, there was only, I would say, like 3 forms. There was your wet glue, which I'm going to show you in a minute, and then there was also your tissue tape. That is also an alternative to your tape runner. It's more inexpensive and it tears. You can just tear it with your finger. You've got edge to edge or you've got finger lift. So you would tend to find all these years ago, you had your tissue tape and then you had like a white glue. And then when it comes to foam pads, what you would have is just that traditional square of 5mm by 5mm foam pad squares. Whereas nowadays it's come along leaps and bounds. So whereas we were talking about construction, which yes, you could be using these ones because adhesives come on, and our adhesives, of course, with Stacey and the team that sources them are incredibly strong. But if you're old school like me, you may still want to come along and use your white glue for things such as your mats and layers, your die cuts, anything like that, even popping gems on, embellishments on, bringing in the construction glue. Now, they both do a similar thing. One's white. These are just decanted in 2 different ways. So you've got your little craft glue applicator. This one's like a pen. It's got a small nib on that. But these are white. So these are what you would class as like seen as a PVA glue.
Okay.
There is water in it, there's very little water, which stops your card for buckling with any content of water seeping into your card. You still get a bit of movability. So if you're putting box edges together, you do have that element of movability. But if you are needing a little bit more of a helping hand, if you're wanting a bit more of a confidence when it comes to construction, your construction glue, that gives you more of that wiggle room. So that gives you a little bit more time than like a white glue will, because that's a really strong grab.
Does that mean, though, if it gives us more wiggle room, it's going to take longer to dry?
No, because you've got a small window where you've got that extension of a wiggle room, but because it is construction, yes, it's clear, but you've still got that content as well. Because with your wet, it dries into the fiber of the card. Whereas something like your tape runner or your tape or your red liner tape, that sits on the layer of your cardstock, whereas these soak into the layer of the cardstock. So this is why I'm very much old school, and I still like my original white glues for construction, because you've got that knowledge, knowing that it ain't going to come apart whatsoever because it's dried into the fibers. I mean, if I bring in, this is a new one. Have I got one? Yeah, I've got one here, so I don't need to open. This will just show you here. Whether it's the white glue, whether it is your construction glue, you don't need much at all. This comes out more of like a gel. And then all that you then need to do is gives you, so you can see I've got more of that wiggle room.
Yeah.
Also helps to spread that out. If you've got any excess that seeps out, Adam, all you need to do is just give that a rub. It's going to take any of that excess off, which is a little bit harder to do with a wet glue, but then we've got you covered, because we do things such as your adhesive kind of rubber, which takes any excess adhesive away when it comes to like a wet glue or a tape. But when it comes to the construction or a box, whether of course it's going to be in with your white glue or whether it's the construction, for me, I use this a lot, but I would recommend anyone that's starting out, the construction glue is spot on because of that wiggle room and movability.
Excuse me, Joyce sort of says the same thing as well. The construction glue is amazing. It's my go-to for everything on there. There's also, keep your questions coming in. I am starring all the questions. There's loads of good ones coming in about different glues and glue dots and things like this. We will do a blanket question and answer right at the end, because there is so much to get through that we're going to, but I am going to bring in this one now because I think it brings up a good point. Clint says, how many differences is there between to the premium glues, i.e. PVA, to something like Mod Podge? Now, just so everyone knows how this works on here as well, we're not here to put any other brands down. It's a school about glue. It's glue across the board is what we're looking at. Obviously, Craig will be showing you Hunkydory's glue because that's what he has to hand and that's where he currently is at the moment. But we're sort of branching out over everything that you've got in here. Let's be fair, a foam pad might be a foam pad. A 3mm foam pad is still a 3mm foam pad that you've got there. So just because we're not going down, you can use these, you can use these. Craig's used many of the glues over the years, many of the foam pads from some of the biggest names that are out there that we've got there. But as the question stated, what is the difference between your PVA and something like a Mod Podge? Is it the water content?
So basically, it's content, and that's a great way to think of it. So in crafting, for on Hobby Maker, we're referring to anything. We will tend to use the word inexpensive. When it comes to, let's say, for instance, children's white glue, PVA glue, if you've got a really, really cheap one, Adam, that is where there's a lot of water content in it. So that's what's going to soak into your card. That's what's going to buckle your card. Because with these, you can absolutely use these for your mats and layers if you want to. And as I said before, because there's a lower water content, you don't have to worry about buckling, anything like that. So when it comes to your white glue, the cheap ones are going to have a lot of water. So that's where you're going to have, of course, that seeping, that buckling. When it comes to something about a Mod Podge, anything like that, once again, it's to do with the content. Different Mod Podges have different things, like for glazing, for outdoor varnishing, for decoupage. They've all got their own purpose. And the bottles, the products, they will always explain what it is that specific one is for. So there's always different ways. There's always a reason for an individual adhesive. But going back to like a white glue or a PVA glue, it's all to do with the content. So a really good one is going to have less water, whereas a cheap one is going to have a lot of water, and you will notice the difference.
There you go. I hope that answers your question. And it is, Craig said, it is about your water content that you've got in there. And if you've ever find your card buckles and bows, like I say, that's because it's probably the glue and not you. Something else I want to squash while we're here before we move on as well, because we're all into it. As obviously on TV, we see a lot of demonstrators using tape runners.
Yes.
Why is that? Because I don't want people to come back and go, oh, you said use this glue because it's the best for this. So why on TV do you use a tape runner and not the glue?
It's speed. It's absolute speed. And this is one of those where over the years, and this is why I was keen with myself, Amy, and yourself to do like this adhesive show, because it can be a little bit of a minefield. What I always say is, if you use a different glue to what I've explained, the glue police are not going to come banging at your door. Do you know what I mean? You know, you've got what you've got at home. Might be other brands. Absolutely, that's absolutely fine. So by all means, please, you know, hopefully you will find this helpful. But if you choose to use them in different ways, that's up to you. But with a tape runner, although it's straight to the point and it's still got that incredibly strong adhesion, it is quicker as well. And that's why a lot of experts, not just us, other brands, that either do their own or they use tape runners because it's speed. Now, you will see in the last week when I was on Hobby Maker, I had my double-sided tape on the back. That is my all go-to. If I've got time in the office to prep like I done, I'll use my tissue tape. But if I don't, this is where I'll rock up, my mats and layers are done, but I'll use my tape runner for speed. So there's no right or wrong best way when it comes to something like a dry adhesive of your tape. It's purely down to speed. The only thing that you might be is cost. Yes, these are inexpensive nowadays and they're refillable, but you get a lot more on your tissue tape than you will when it comes to a tape runner. But it's horses for courses and what you prefer.
And it also goes down to the amount of cards you make as well. Obviously, we make a lot of. I say we. I use the royal we. You make a lot of samples during the shows, so we have to turn them around quite quickly so you can see what you're buying into. I just wanted to cover that in case people thought, well, here he is talking about the glues, but he only ever uses this, that, and the other. So where do we go from here? Where do you want to go from here? What's our next? We've talked about wet glue. Oh, back to the construction glue.
Yes.
Is that when we talk construction? Because my head, I think construction. I'm thinking MDF. Is it good for that, or is that a totally different glue?
Do you know what you could do? I was about to say controversial. It's not controversial, but I would actually use a white glue for anything like your MDF, because you've got that bit more. And again, this goes back to water content. You've got that element of water content that will dry into the MDF. Yes, if you want, because it's got the name construction. And this is all that I can do is advise and give you my knowledge.
Yeah.
And I do absolutely a lover of all things adhesives. That's why I say I'm an adhesive geek. But if you do get specialized wood glues out there. However, you will also find there's a lot of brands that do MDF that will use a white glue. So something like ours, you could absolutely use that for your MDF if you want. But to answer your question, yes, you could do if you wanted to.
There you go. I just to add that, because I think the minute I think construction, I think your MDF projects and things like that. So where do you want to go next on our little adhesive journey?
What we can do just before we'll go into the foam pads and the glue gel.
Okay.
Just before we do that, let me just spend another little minute here just with the tape and also the red liner tape, because this is where I say there's a lot of mixing and matching here. Construction, if you would much rather a dry form of construction, I know I've already talked about you could be using your tape runner, but your kind of traditional when it comes to your construction of a dry form is your red liner tape. That's incredibly strong. You have to cut that. It's got a plastic base to it, so you have to cut it with your scissors. You can't tear it like you can with your tissue tape here. But this is great for your construction. You could, if you want, use it as the matting layer. The only thing you need to keep in mind, Adam, is this is incredibly thin. So if you use that for box making, you're not going to notice the layers. This, because it's a plastic adhesion, you've got an element of thickness to it.
Okay.
So if you've got anything that's fitting together, you just need to keep that in mind if you've only got wiggle room of a mil or two. But you get different widths here. The great thing for things like this is you can heat emboss on these. You can as well on that. I would always recommend, even though it's got that plastic layer to it, you can heat emboss onto it with your embossing powders. You can put your glitters on. You can put your gilding flakes on there as well if you want. But as I've referred to a couple of times, my go-to is always my tissue tape. We call it tissue tape, double-sided tape, because it is a tissue base to it. So you can just tear. I prefer the edge to edge. So that's adhesion right from the left to the right-hand side. And the reason I like that, Adam, is because it means when I'm using it for my mats and layers, if we find the edge, I tend to use this 12mm one. I can go right to the very edge. Now, what we also do is something called a finger lift. It's exactly the same. The only difference is the width of the adhesive isn't as wide as the carrier.
Okay.
So you can do exactly that. You can lift it with your finger if you want. So if I go to that edge here, what you will find is if I lift that with my nail or your pokey tool, and if I lift that one here, this is where you will see you've got that edge to edge there, but can you see how the carrier for this one is wider than the adhesive, and I'm not quite up to the very edge. So if you find one where you prefer that easy release, your finger lift's the best one. But if you're like me and you like that edge to edge, they're both exactly the same. It's just the carrier that's different.
Okay, so once again, let's go back to comparing this to the glue that we've just used. Why would we use tape over glue? Is it just a preference that we've got here, or is there sort of a science, as it were, behind it?
I suppose if you were to think of a science, going back to what I said before, your wet glue will dry into the fibers of your card. A dry adhesive will sit on the layer, still work really well, but you've got that element of just sitting and then binding together, whereas the glue will then, of course, dry into the layers. A lot of it's down to preference and time. If you want that quickness, you can use your white glue, but you still need to let that dry, So again, 15 minutes or so, you don't need long at all because you don't need a lot of glue. That is kind of the one thing a lot of people think, glue, you need a lot of glue to stick. And it's the actual opposite. You need a fine amount for it to glue and to adhere together perfectly. If you use too much, it's not going to want to stick. It actually does the opposite of what you're trying to do. So from a wet glue to, of course, a dry glue, it can just be personal preference. This one here, once you've stuck it down, you're good to go and there's no going back. Whereas this one, it gives you that movability. So if you need that little bit of extra time to move it into place, this is where a wet one or your construction will be best.
Now, keep your questions coming in. There's loads of good questions coming in. I say we're going to do all the questions at the end, but I just want to bring this in now because this is a I don't know if it's a rumor. I don't know if it's a myth. I've heard it loads over the years of working behind the counters. And some people say yes, some people say no. So let's see. Let's go with the question. Anita says, when I use red liner tape, I put a small amount of wet glue on it for movability. Now, some people say yes, do this. Some people say no because it affects the red liner tape in the long run. Is there a right and wrong with this? Does it affect the tape in any way?
So there's not a right and a wrong. I've actually never known anyone to do it on like a red liner tape. Many will do it on the back of foam pads, which I'll explain to you just shortly. I'm not going to say it's a wrong way of doing it. The only thing I would say is because your red liner tape, it is like a plastic layer. The glue's not really got anything to soak into and dry into. It will work, and don't get me wrong, I can understand why you would maybe put that little bit of wet glue over the top. If you want to do it to give yourself that movability with a red liner tape, you can do, but I know a lot of people will tend to do it within a foam pad, but it's not a right or wrong. Again, Adam, you do at home what you feel that you want to do to give you that best adhesion to your project.
There you go. So Anita, there is no right or wrong. So
No.
you're there. It's one of those that people say, "Oh no, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that because it affects this, that, and the other." And I'm like, how do you know this? How do you know? But do what for you feel comfortable. If you need the more wiggle room, it's the easiest way to get it because you know you've got that super strong stick as well. If we are using tape over a glue, is the lifespan of the product, for example, a matte and layer, is it going to last longer with glue than it does with tape? Or once again, is that just a case of where you're putting it, if it's in sunlight, is it a case of your elements rather than the actual product?
Yeah, it's more about the environment. Absolutely. It's also about the card. You'll tend to see me using a lot of tent-fold cards. So if you're doing anything like a decollage or a decoupage or anything that's got a layers, if you do a traditional opening card, sometimes you can find it can topple over because of the weight and the depth. Whereas if you do a tent-fold card, which we do at Hunkydory Crafts, you've then got that stability as well. But the reason I'm saying that is because with a dry adhesive, if your card, your project, if it's sitting on a mantelpiece and it's a warm room and it's above a fireplace that's giving off a lot of heat, over time, that could, and when I say over time, I don't mean over 10 minutes or a couple of hours or a couple of days. You know, when some people keep the special cards or project out, if it's getting that constant burst of a heat source to it, it can start to separate. Whereas with your wet glue, because it's dried into the fibers, Adam, there's no way that it's going to come apart because it's dried into the fibers, it's adhered together, and it's going to be incredibly strong.
I'm with Clean on this, Adam. I think it's trial and error. I think you're absolutely right. But I would also try, I wouldn't try it on my main project first. Try it on a bit. Would you say, Craig, try it on a little scrap? Don't go straight in and go, I'm going to put red line tape and glue on top if you've never tried it before, because it may not be for you.
Yeah, and actually, I'm glad you said that, because when many people try things, they'll be advised, and again, that's all that I'm doing. I'm advising. It's entirely up to you. They'll say use any real cheap card or paper that you've got. I say the opposite. I'll say still use your good stuff, Adam, but a little slither, because what you're using and what you're trying, that could be affected differently on a cheap card compared to the one that you're actually going to be working with. So it may work well for a cheaper version, but it's got a different consistency or a different form with your good quality one. And you're going to wonder, well, that's not worked. So I would just say, try things on little slithers of the good quality card that you're going to be using.
That I totally agree with that as well. Or if you're putting embellishments on, I know some of the Hunkydory pads with the little pips in. You know, the excess you get around the edge, glue those together and things like that, because it's the same cardstock as your mats and layers. I also think this is it's sort of a statement, and I really like it because it sums up that all these glues are not just for card making. People think, oh, it's glue, it's for cards, or my tape, it's just for my mats and layers. As Clean says again, her son uses the finger lift tape to make miniature models, which is amazing. And you've got stuff like that. So don't think of the bigger picture when we talk about tape and we talk about glues as well that you've got on there. Where do you want to go next?
Right. Shall we go? My firm favourite, foam pads.
Okay.
Foam pads and glue gel or a silicone glue here. You guys know Hunkydory, and I'm going to say this because I bought them myself for years and years and years. No one does decoupage or decollage like Hunkydory. Fact. And I'll say that. Well, I say fact. It's my opinion. But we have got such an array of foam pads. So this is where it's giving you that build. It's giving you that depth, which is great for your decoupage, your decollage, even just that additional layer. But there is other forms as well. You know, you do have things such as glue gels. You've got silicones as well. And this is where you can go back to a dry versus a wet, because that's dry, but then that's wet. And each of them has their own kind of place. So if you are building your decoupage, decollage, you want that instant stick, you want to make it, you want to send it straight away. your foam pad is a good way to do that, because you can do exactly that. Make it, build it, send it straight away. At Hunkydory, we do different depths. You know, we'll go all the way up to a 4 mil. We've got 3 mils, 2 mils. We've got strips. We've got circles, triangles. So it doesn't matter whether you're using smaller decoupage, larger decollage. We've got you covered. You can snip them if you want to. But if you want that confidence, getting it in the right place, and you don't really have that bit of confidence when it comes to a foam pad just yet, because you're starting out, a glue gel or a silicone, that's a good one because it gives you movability as well. Not only that, you can have whatever depth that you want, because you can have it as high as you want, press it down as low as you want. You can go in between. Whereas with a foam pad, you are restricted to about 3 or 4 different depths. Whereas like a glue gel, you don't have that worry. And for something like this, whereas, you know, we've done our decollage, that you can come along. I've already popped foam pads on the back. Now, with foam pads, you can, as I referred to a moment ago, you can snip down your large foam pads. I'm very much one of those, I like to use the foam pad for the job. Now, what I mean by that is I still like to use the really small ones as well, because that's what the purpose and the premise was for. And this is where, as I'm building now I would always take the backing off of all of them off. Now, I don't always have that time like now, so I'm not going to, but with your decollage, with your foam pads, you've got that instant. So I can carry on building with my foam pads. Now, that ain't going anywhere. That's incredibly strong. What you could do is what we were referring to a moment ago, Adam, is if you want, you could take their foam pads. So let's say you really want to use foam pads, but you wanted a bit of wiggle room. You can come along with your wet glue or a little bit of construction, and all that you need to do, just a tiny little dab, not much. And what this will do, the foam pad will give you that instant stick. However, the glue, I'm flush now, but the glue's still going to give me that wiggle room. Then once I'm happy, I can press. The excess of the glue is now in place. And after 10, 15 minutes, that little residual part of the glue is going to be incredibly strong. But then the opposite is if you've got something like your glue gels. So I'm not going to build all these layers, but your glue gel is more of a clear one, you know, that Pinflare do these ones. Yeah. A silicone has more of that cloudy look. They both do exactly the same. With your glue gel, you can get things like your little applicator, your syringes, but it's entirely up to you. So I've popped that on here. Now, if I want it really thin, I can press down. But if I want it to be really quite high, what I can do is I can prise that apart and I can get a fair bit of depth in there, or once again, go back down. So it's another one that all depends on whether you've got the time to let it dry, and also if you are beginner, or maybe you have dexterity issues, you can't grab the backing of the foam pad. These ones tend to be a lot softer as well, so therefore you might find it easier to apply them onto the back. But it's to do with depth as well, time to let it dry. And then this is where you can mix and match different depths of foam pad, but with a glue gel or a silicone, you're in full control. Could be 1 mil, could be 20 millimeters. It's entirely up to you, because you've got that movability, unlike you do with, of course, the foam pads.
And where do we use the different types of foam? Because obviously, once again, it's a daunting world, but where do we use the different types of foam pads? Are the larger foam pads, obviously, I'm guessing for the larger areas, and that's why they get smaller and smaller for the smaller bits of decoupage that you've got in there. But how do you think about like strips? Why are we using strips and not just normal pads?
So your squares, your rectangles, they can cover that bigger circumference on the back of things such as your decollage, things such as your strips. So we do like thinner strips. These are great for shakers, going around corners if you want, because of course you can absolutely start to then shape them if you want because you've got that thinness to them. So if you want it to go around corners or angles,
nice.
you can do that. We also do, and we use these a lot. These are wider strips. So this is also good for mats and layers on a bigger backing, a bigger layer, that instead of using smaller rectangles or squares, you can use your strips to go around. It's great for framework if you want to. It's just good for covering a bigger area in a quicker period of time.
Right, I'm conscious of the time, and we've got loads of questions to get through as well. I just want to do possibly 2 more glues, and then we're going to go to question time. I think another big glue is a glue gun.
Glue gun,
which can be quite a scary little place, a glue gun, because it's hot glue. It can burn your fingers if you don't get it right. It can become quite brittle. When and why do we use a glue gun?
So a glue gun is another one where if you want to apply an embellishment or a layer, something like that, but you want to have that wet form, but you want it to dry quicker, then of course this is where a hot glue is really good, because it's going to do that. The glue's melted, it is more flexible, it's more of a liquid consistency. So then therefore you've got that heatness as well that's then going to bind the layers or the embellishment together. What they're also good for as well is if you've got your glass mat, your craft mat, your non-stick mat, what you can do, Adam, is you can decant circles, large circles, small circles, and then you can sprinkle your glitter on and you can create your own embellishments.
Oh, nice.
There is an argument that you can do it with your glue gels. The only thing is you're going to have to wait a good wee while to let them dry. True. Whereas that one, decant it out in a circle, pop your glitters or your micro beads, whatever, on straight away, let it dry, couple of minutes, then just pick them off. And it's a great way to adhere, of course, any of your, or create your own little jazzy gems.
Well, jazzy gem. Who doesn't love a jazzy gem? Oh, here we go. Look. Hi, Adam, and my favourite demonstrator, very talented Craig.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
Right, and question time. Here we go. So all the questions that have come in from the start of the chat at about 46 minutes ago, I've collaborated them all together. So we're going to go through them one by one, even if we've touched on them already. Here's the first one from Diane. Why is the wider / larger red liner tape thicker and the smaller one slimmer red liner tape? So which is the best?
Why is the wider, larger red liner tape thicker than this? Do you mean width-wise?
I'm guessing so, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it for different projects?
Just purely projects, yeah. So you would tend to use these when it comes to something like a shaker with acetate. So all it is, it depends on the actual frame size that you are popping your adhesive around. So if you have got a bigger width, bigger frame, like maybe our shadow boxes, you might want to use the thicker one. But if it's a thinner one, then of course you might want to use a thinner one. It's entirely up to yourself. No right or wrong. Depends on the project.
There you go. Next question in from Roz. Hi, Adam and Craig. Is there a low water glue that dries matte? I don't know what you'd be doing with it. I'm guessing you'd be using it. I'm guessing it's a sealer. I'm guessing you'd be using it for.
That's what I'm thinking as well. Yeah, sealer. We've not got anything that would, certainly ourselves anyway, that would dry as a matte. You will find, because you can use our white glue as like a sealant varnish, so to speak. I wouldn't say it's completely weatherproof, but if you want to create your own little glaze, you can do that with a white glue. A matte one, you would probably have to go with maybe a more specialized one, maybe like a Mod Podge, something like that.
There you go. Next one is from Dave. What is the best glue to use with a dye so you can sprinkle glitter on parts of it?
Right, so let's just say, for instance, this one here, where I talked to you about beforehand, a couple of things that you could do. If you wanted to, you could use something like your wet glue and even just one of our little applicators. Start to then spread some of the glue over the top there, sprinkle your glitter, then you can do it that way if you want. The other thing as well, earlier on, Adam, whereas I talked about our double-sided adhesive sticky mitts, I talked about having it on the back. what you could do is you could have a layer on the front as well. You will need your metal shim for whatever die cutting machine, because it's card, it's 2 layers of stickiness, it's backing as well. But what you could do is pop a layer on the front, die cut it, and then peel it off. Then that front surface will be sticky, and you can then sprinkle your glitter on there as well.
There you go, Dave. I hope that answers your question. Karazin, what is the best way to open a bottle of construction glue?
Rightio. So if I bring this one in here, so what you will find is you've got that tiny little tip right here. So sometimes you might have a habit to chop all the way down. All that you want to do is where you've got that ridge at the top, that's all that you want to do. You just want to then just snip at the tip there. This is a very, very, very good time, Adam, for me just to explain. I'm going to bring in mine. I'll explain what I've done. Right. Glue stand.
Yes.
Glue stand is not intended to stop your glue from leaking out. You still have to put the cap on the glue. If you don't have the cap, the glue is going to seep out. So if you're thinking, well, of course, I'm putting my glue in, it's still seeping out, it will unless you put the cap on. This is about gravity. This is about having your glue in there so the glue will flow right to the bottom, so you can just take it straight away onto your project without having to wait for it to actually gravitate down to the bottom. So do make sure that you put your caps on your glue when you're using your glue stand.
There you go. Top tips. Cover your tip is what you need to do. Otherwise, you're going to have glue everywhere. From there, we move on. Fiona, we can't recycle tapes here. She feels bad for using them. Don't feel bad. Just store them all up. I'm guessing she's in the States.
Fiona is.
Yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Where's the best place to store these glues? A lot dry out because of the sun or the central heating. So where do you store your glue?
Rightio. So Karen, you've kind of answered that for yourself. It's happening because you're in sunlight, or it's in direct form of your radiator or heaters, anything like that. Anything, your glues, tapes, anything. What I tend to do is I've got, I'm going to say it, Kallax units.
Yeah, that's fine.
I've actually from Joe, Storage from Crafts, I bought a storage unit that I'm going to build. So out of direct sunlight, out of pure warmth, anything like that. It can still be in the same room, Adam, but just make sure it's not got that direct heat coming from it, from like behind with a radiator or something like that.
There you go. I hope that answers your question, Karen. From there, we move on. I don't know if you can answer this one. Do you have any idea when the tape runners will become available in the US for US crafters? Or are they already?
All that I can say, and I've seen it firsthand, is Big Boss Dan is always working around the clock trying to work out how we can get certain products that are not available in the USA to be available in the USA. So they are trying, just not Adam, the team as well, but they are always looking at it.
There you go. Talking about something coming up in the future. I don't know if this is a possibility as well. The glue pen I find easier for application. Would like a construction glue pen form if possible.
So funny enough, I put a little quick reel together this morning, and I am so glad so many of you vouched for me. I've tried many 2-in-1 glue pens over the years, Adam, and I can put my hand on my heart and tell you this is the best one I've ever used. This one here stays sticky until you pop something on it. So for instance, what I mean is I could come along here and I can go direct. I don't have to. I'm trying to write and think and speak as well at the same time. I don't have to let that ball action work or roll. I can go straight onto my card. And what you'll find as well is, unlike other ones that are blue, and although this is the best one, there's still good ones out there, they go blue. Ours, we put the time, the effort into our own ranges. And you can see this one's actually a purple. Now, what will happen is after a few moments, that will go like a glaze there. Now, Adam, that will stay sticky until you put something on it. But answering that question from Lynn, you could, if you want, tiny little dots. And if you want to put gems or pearls or that on it, you can do, no problem at all. But with something like your 2-in-1 glue pen, because that stays sticky, what you can do is you can then come along and you're going to then take a little sponge, don't necessarily use your finger, but your 2-in-1 glue pen is a great thing to pop things such as your Gildan flakes or your glitters. I'm going to do that very, very quickly as well with our glitter. So it's a really, really good pen. But what I've done there, once that goes clear, which is just about there, you can then start to put any of your different mediums on them.
There you go. I think that would also work in your scan and cut.
What one's that?
That pen.
Try it. Try it.
I think with your universal pen holder, I reckon you could. I reckon it would work. Another question coming in. Oh, is it going to be questions all the time? What is the best adhesive for sticking ribbons and bows to cards other than hot glue?
Rightio. So the other one that you could use, and I'm sure I know I definitely brought them. I don't know where they're gone. Have I got any here? Glue dots. See, me and Jess.
All over it.
So we do glue dots. So this really, in a way, is like a pre-glued form. It's very hard to see because it is a clear glue dot. But whereas instead of using something like your wet glue, that one there is a strong adhesion, but of course it is in that glue dot form. So if you want to add your embellishment on, your ribbon bow on, you can do that if you want to. You could use it to attach the edges of your boxes. I tend to explained the ones that I prefer to use. But yeah, if you want to have that strong adhesion, but you don't want that heatness and the hotness from a hot glue, something like your glue dot is a really good thing to use.
There you go. Next question. Where do you use to stop residue getting on your scissors? I'm guessing when you're cutting foam pads and red liner tape.
Yes. So you will find if you're using ours, and I'm not just saying this, and I can say this from past experience, our one, whether it is kind of like our holographic ones or our new ones, because of the coating that you've got, it's happens very rare. Now it will happen, it's the nature of the beast. You do get things such as your adhesive cleaners out there. What a lot of people do, I've never done this, and I'm not saying don't do it, I'm going to say try it if you want. A lot of people will put their scissors in lukewarm water, then cut the foam pads. You could try that if you want. That stops, of course, and creates that barrier to stop the edges of the foam pads. There will be other scissors out there you will have trouble with. So you could give that a shot if you want to. Whatever you're cutting, still make sure that you've got that backing on. Don't peel the backing off, then cut, because you really will start to gunk up your scissors.
Time has beaten us. Thank you for all your questions, though. Thank you for every single one of them. Thank you to you as well, Craig. Absolute star.
You're very welcome. Where's the time gone?
I know. Where is that? That whole hour. Hour has now disappeared.
She did say, Craig, it's going to go fast.
The next one, remember, it's the first Tuesday of the month. The 3rd of March is what we're looking at on this one. 3rd of March, we're talking all things dyes with our Amy, is what we're going to be talking about. So all things dyes. And fingers crossed, I'll be up there with you.
Fingers crossed.
We'll be coming live. We're becoming live from Hunkydory Towers that you've got on this one.
Fabulous. That would be really, really good if you are here. And joking aside, make sure that I'm going to be in the building as well, because it'll be nice to see you.
If you've got any questions, queries, worries and woes, Hunkydory are always on hand. They're live every day, every weekday from 10 o'clock over on Hunkydory TV. And everything is there. I know we've only spoken about Hunkydory products today, but remember, this goes across the board for all of your brands that you've got on there. Obviously, we don't name shame on here because everyone's got their own glues. Everyone's got their own products. But obviously, we work with Hunkydory here on Craft O'Clock as we do with other people. But at the end of the day, once you've got the techniques, they all work the same. It's like riding a bike. Once you've ridden a bike once, you can ride any bike that you've got at home. I should have kept it craft related, but I couldn't think of one quick enough. Right then, I'm going to love you and leave you all. I will see you on Sunday back here at 12 o'clock.